know how challenging it is after 4 months of going through this. This is where I'm at the beginning. This isn't where I was at. So I feel you. I know what you're thinking and what you're feeling, but it'll be okay. Hello, it has been a while. I did film like a getting classroom ready with me video at the beginning of the fall, and it was really, really tough to film. It was just really different coming back to a classroom and having to change everything from leaving it how it was in March. Like, I hadn't visited my classroom since the pandemic started. So I started putting all that together, and I think I'm still going to put it out there. It's just like kind of a mental thing for me at this point. But what I wanted to get to today was how our school has successfully been in person since the beginning of the school year and had no active outbreaks within the school system for the last September, October, November, almost, 4 months now, for over 4 months. We haven't had any active outbreaks of COVID-19 within the school. Now, we've had students that have contracted it, we've had staff that have contracted it, but all from outside sources. So I just want to go over a couple of things that we've done that have been successful to help put your mind at ease if you're going back in person, just to let you know that if you do these things and if the students do these things, you'll be safe and it'll be okay to the best of everyone's ability. But we all have to buy into this together. So the first thing is masks. Everyone has to wear a mask. Everyone has to wear a mask properly. That has been, I feel, the number one deterrent of spreading the disease within our school, or the virus. So what I do is I have one of those little neck things, and that way I can pop it on and off really quickly. I like the Old Navy ones. I do notice that it muffles or like quiets my voice a little bit. However, it is the most comfortable to wear all day long, and I like that the earpieces, you can adjust those up and down. It does not have a nose wire, but like I said, they're just my favorite ones. I started the year off wearing glasses instead of a protective face shield, just so nothing would like get in my eyes. I felt like that was protective, but I felt lately and enough that I can wear my contacts and be fine, because it was just irritating to have them on top of the mask, and that's a personal choice. Plenty of people still wear glasses. So everyone needs to wear masks at all times unless you're taking a sip of water or down to the lunchroom, and I'll go over that in a little bit. Social distancing, obviously, as much as possible. We are all social beings, and students are going to want to talk to one another, and when you're wearing a mask, the best way to do that is to get closer than 6 feet to someone. We are all on the same page. Students know our expectations. You just need to social distance. They all come into the classroom in a group. We do split our students into cohorts, so they're with the same class for the most of the day, but they do have specials and languages in other classes where they are getting mixed up. I'm at a middle school level, if that's helpful at all. And then the desks, as you can see, I have them in rows, which I don't love, but it works for right now, and they are 6 feet apart. I can fit 20 students in my class, so we did modify our class sizes. If your classes need to be bigger than how you can fit desks 6 feet apart in your classroom, what made me feel better about it was having them at least 6 feet widthwise, and then front to back. I feel like if everyone's wearing their mask, it's a little bit easier to get them closer in that way. Okay, so in the morning when students come in, they go straight to their homeroom. So they're within that cohort right away. We don't let them stop at their lockers. They go straight to their advisory teacher. And then we have staggered times where we allow students to go into their lockers, and at the beginning of the year we staggered where their lockers were. So if everyone from my advisory goes to their locker, they are at an every other locker, so they're socially distanced. They're not all going to the same area. So if you can think about, if you're dismissing them and you need to have them spread out and be at an every other spread out situation, how could you do that in a time variant? And then they come back to homeroom, stay with us until they go to the first period class. For lunch, students go to a specific designated table. We did add tables, so we have 2 to 3 kids per table, and they are assigned that table. They get their food, they go through the lunch line, they do not take their masks off until they sit down. They have it off when they eat, and then when they're done eating, even if they're still at that table, they put their mask back on. We for the beginning of recess did not allow any equipment, so students just needed to kind of like run around and be social in that way. With their Well, here's the other thing too, that was a shift. We allowed them to, when they were outside, if they were socially distanced, to take their masks off. Now, we are in an area where it is very cold outside right now, so we're not going outside a lot during recess. And even when we were outside, like, they just couldn't stay more than 6 feet apart, so we just had them keep their masks on. We split the boys and girls, or like parts of the lunchroom, we kind of like mix it up, so we have 2 different areas where they can go. We actually have dots on the floor of the cafeteria, so they have to pick a dot and stand there, and then they can talk, or we let them play kickball in the gym with their masks on, but we limit the numbers so it's not a bunch of kids all playing together. So we did eventually reintroduce equipment then as well, just making sure that as soon as they stepped back in the door, everyone put hand sanitizer on or washed their hands. So that's lunch and recess. So then at the end of the day, we did pretty much the same thing that we do in the morning, where students need to leave to go get their stuff at a specific time. So no matter what class they're in, we dismiss them by their advisory. So I have like small groups of kids leave at a time and come back to go get their stuff from their locker, and they really only take like 2 minutes, so it doesn't take up a ton of class time, even though it's at the end of the day, and during my class it's what we need to do to be safe. So we stagger those out, they come back in, they stay with me until the bell rings, and then once the bell rings, I dismiss them by row, single file. So when we all do that at the end of the day from each class, it's a staggered approach to exiting the building, so not everyone's kind of bottlenecking out the door, basically, and that's helped a lot. For classroom accommodations, most of my instruction has been the same. There have been some flipped classroom models that have been successful with videos, or what I'll do is I will film my lessons, and I'll address quarantine students in a second. If students have a question about something, it's not me going up close to them and re-explaining it. They can just rewatch the video as we continue to work on things. And then, like right now, I have students working on an essay, and so it's basically like writer's workshop, and I can't see their screens from less than like a foot away. So instead of me going up to them and looking at their screen and reading what they have on their screen next to them and then having that conversation, which I love and I feel like is more connected, what I have done is utilize Padlet. So I make a Padlet, and then they just post on there specifically what they want me to look at on their essay, and then when I'm up at my desk, I will hop on their document and then just make comments, and then on the Padlet I turn their post to green, kind of like the green light. You can go ahead and look at it again, so they can see that I've looked at it and look at my comments, and then follow up with any other questions. That way it's also kind of like a virtual line, if you will, of students that want me to look at their stuff. It's really hard not to crouch down next to them and look at stuff and work on things with them, but you just can't do that. It's not a good example of social distancing, and it doesn't make us both safe. If there's a student that needs constant attention and you're by them all the time and you're with them more than that 15 minutes that is designated at this point that you should be within contact of students, you're not putting either of yourselves in a safe situation. So for now, that's just what we have to do. Padlet has worked really well aiding in that challenge. I did want to show you, I have these Velcro dots from Amazon that help tell my students where the desk should go. So like this one just needs to be pushed back a little bit there. But that's a really nice and easy way to just show where they should be. There. And here's the view of my classroom. The books are pretty similar as before. Oh, and then I did want to say about my desk. So at the beginning of the school year, I did put a desk like here and put tape all the way across as a visual for my students to give me my own space. And it was hard at first, and then they learned and they got used to it, and now I can take that down and they still give me my space. So we just need to be respectful of one another and keep each other safe, and we all have gotten to that place now. And then hand sanitizer, I have bottles of it. I have it everywhere. I have a language arts classroom, and I have over 1,000 books in my room. Students need hand sanitize before they handle the books. And that works. When the books come back, they get put in quarantine for a handful of days, and then they go back on the shelf. I haven't had any problems with that whatsoever. Quarantine students. Every so often there are students that are quarantined for a number of reasons. It is their privacy as to why, but what we have are tablets where we live stream our classes. Within Google Classroom, you can enable a Meet code, so students and I can just go to our Google Classroom, you click on the Meet code, and then that creates the Google Live. So you're not setting up like a scheduled class time on Google Calendar or anything like that, or having to email back and forth links. Like, you just know you go on the Google Classroom Meet code for that period. Quarantine students should be at home. Our students have devices. We are one-to-one, so there shouldn't be any reason that they're not on class or at class during that designated time. However, if they're really sick and can't attend class, I just record that class's session, and then I post it on the Google Classroom site for them when they have any questions, and just obviously making sure to keep in contact as best as possible. We ended up hiring a virtual teacher that is handling all of our 100% full-time virtual students altogether. At the high school level, they have an online academy, so they don't have a specific teacher. We just use like the WVS system or something comparable to that. So those are the things that have been successful and helped to aid in being and staying in person during a pandemic. I also think above and beyond, like, a positive attitude has helped a ton. Just the culture of our environment. We didn't have anyone opt out of the school year. We didn't have anyone quit. Everyone knew that this was going to be a challenging year and came back to school. They came back to teach. We are the examples of how to deal with this for our students, and no matter what anyone's individual and independent feelings or beliefs are about the pandemic, if we want to be in person in school, we all need to be in this together, and we all need to follow the rules, which means we all need to wear a mask, and we need to socially distance, and we need to wash our hands. So those are the three main things that we need to do. And if everyone does that, we can stay in person and we can be in school. It is so good for our mental health to be together, and we're just going to do whatever it takes for that to happen, and the rest will fall into place because we are teachers and we're good at what we do, and we're good at fostering the relationships with students regardless of whether or not they can see half of our face. My thoughts are with you, and I know how challenging it is after 4 months of going through this. This is where I'm at the beginning. This isn't where I was at, so I feel you. I know what you're thinking and what you're feeling, but it'll be okay. I would love to hear where your school's at with social distancing and hybrid and learning and all of that. Let me know down in the comments below kind of where you're at and what you're going through right now. I'd love to hear it. So you can do it. You can be safe. It'll be okay, and you'll get to be in your classroom with your students doing what you love. See you next time.